Welcome to the Genzio Media House right here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm joined today by Joel from Dash. Welcome.
Welcome. Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So talk to me about Dash. You've been around for a really long time.
Yeah. So Dash has just turned 10 years old in January.
Congratulations.
It's one of the older, thank you, one of the older blockchain projects. It's kind of a little bit of a strange thing when you have something that lasts that long. It's a very small club of cryptos. And so Dash's first and main focus is on being a better digital cash. The name Dash is a portmanteau of digital cash. And so basically trying to be the very best money, the best money for payments. Some of those first hallmarks were in increased privacy, as well as instant transaction settlement, which is something that for many, many years, very few projects had. And low fees, high scalability, just like the best digital cash in the world. And then we've been kind of slowly working on building in more features, and we have a pretty big release coming up soon that will address some of those things I can talk about in a little bit. But Dash is the longest running DAO, or decentralized autonomous organization. Some people might say the first. It's hard to tell, but it's definitely the oldest that's still functioning since, I guess, 2015 or so, when the DAO got launched. Kind of launched the masternode concept as well, and did a few other kind of key pioneer things. And yeah, it's also the money that I use daily. In 2015, at the end of 2015, I stopped earning fiat currency, and in the next year I closed my bank account to live all on crypto.
Well, we got to talk about that.
Yeah. Why don't you just interject there, we go from there.
So explain Dash, maybe the first goal 10 years ago, because maybe it changed a little, and then dive into how you just, stopped earning fiat. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to believe we're all here for decentralized money to a certain extent. We all,
That's what we're striving for.
Believe what you want, but I think that just replacing the government and banking-run financial system with something that's permissionless and free is a good goal. And Bitcoin is the grandfather of all this and kicked this off. And kind of the goal from Dash for the very beginning was to kind of close the loop and like really dial in on this goal. So of course the first thing, Bitcoin is a very transparent chain, and a few different projects looked for ways of improving the privacy of Bitcoin. Didn't really go super well, so they went off in other directions. I think Dash was one of the first to have an integrated privacy feature in 2014. And then of course you have like Monero and Zcash that later came and started doing very similar things, also from being sort of rebuffed by the Bitcoin developers. And then Dash started focusing on instant transactions and other things to make it a better payment system. But pretty early on, Dash's founder, Evan Duffield, started to see that the way we transact in crypto is just not really super accessible to people. People aren't used to long cryptographic addresses, copy and paste. It's very much in a vacuum. And he envisioned a project called Evolution that he first talked about on Bitcoin Wednesdays in Amsterdam in 2015. And if you look on YouTube, you can still find that video from all the way back. But basically his idea was to add usernames and contact lists and other kind of usability things directly to the Dash blockchain, so you don't have to have another company that can be, again, censored, taken down, have to provide the whole like Venmo style experience. The idea is like a decentralized Venmo, kind of ahead of its time, but it's still something that not a lot of people are really doing today.
So you went from Dash. Now explain how you just decided I'm done with fiat. How did that happen?
Yeah. So maybe I'm not the brightest or the most like self-control person or whatever, but when I got really excited about Bitcoin in 2013, I was talking about it since like 2012, but I finally got my first Bitcoin because someone paid me back for a pizza, which I didn't plan. I didn't understand the significance until years later, but he paid me back in Bitcoin. End of 2013, the price went crazy. I'd moved to New Hampshire, and that was ground zero for a lot of the crypto movement. A lot of people were just like at farmers markets just accepting Bitcoin and stuff, and so I got used to sending and receiving. It clicked. This is huge. Like this is I can just send money to anyone, and it's not like paper money. It's not a bank. It's real money that no one can take away. And I just got pretty obsessed with it. And it wasn't until the end of 2015 that I decided, I've been on the edges for a little too long. I want to do this like full time. I don't want any more fiat currency. So I just decided to quit my job and see where that went, which is not something I recommend people do, but it did work out for me because about a week later I got a job writing for Cointelegraph. They were paying me in Bitcoin.
Awesome.
And then from then on, it was about a year of living all on Bitcoin, and I closed my bank account in 2016 to just try that all out, and that kind of worked until the Bitcoin block started to fill up towards the end of that year.
So I have a really interesting question for you, because you say, okay, I saw the potential in Bitcoin. I was able to transact. I went to farmers market. Was able to buy my apples and bananas with Bitcoin, right? What do your friends say? What do friends and family say? Because my friends are like, I'm not buying this stuff. I can't do that.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, I joined something called the Free State Project, which is just a movement of freedom-minded individuals to all come to New Hampshire. So a lot of my friends were already freedom-minded, already, believe that taxation is theft, all the usual stuff.
Okay.
And so it became like, if you can achieve this, it's like, oh yeah, that's great. Of course, it does. Historically, it has made sometimes like going out and socializing a little bit more challenging, because you're like, well, does this place take it? Can I figure it out? It's become, a challenge that I've lived with for a while, but I mean, I have to say, I've experienced a lot of friends having challenges with the banking system, withdrawal limits, whatever, services go down, things like that. And having full self-custody of my entire net worth is something that's very beautiful and freeing, that now at least I can always like stand on that. Everything else is, extra.
So now where does Dash come in your story?
Yeah, so in my personal story, towards the end of 2016, it started to become really hard to live on Bitcoin, because like I'd try to make a payment and it would take an hour or two for confirmation. Like I'm just trying to buy some pants, and then I'm walking around the shopping mall for 2 hours checking my phone, waiting for something to go through. A few days I had to actually like skip lunch because the transaction didn't go through in time to pay for things. And another time I was waiting for a confirmation so long my phone died, and then I also in that situation, and it just became untenable. And this is 2016. The whole block size war thing was really heated up and culminated 2017, but people who are actually living on crypto like me, on Bitcoin, felt it a year before everyone else. And so I just literally said, okay, do I just go back to my bank and say, can I have an account again, please? Do I do that, or do I try to keep going? So I tried to keep going, and I just go to coinmarketcap.com, Bitcoin, cross off the list, next down the list. What is it? Ethereum. Well, that's not trying to be money. I don't think that would work. And thankfully I didn't go for Ethereum, because they ended up with the same high fee problems and things like that. And then I believe at the time, Litecoin has kind of had a resurgence these days, but at the time it was an abandoned project. The code base was not being maintained. In fact, Dash was originally forked from Litecoin, but then it got rebased on Bitcoin because the Litecoin code base wasn't being maintained. And so I was like, can't do that. And then Dash, and I'm like, let me try this out. And it was it worked for me to just switch. And about half the services that took Bitcoin took Dash at the time. The other half took Dash through like a Shapeshift plugin. Some of you OGs might remember what that was, when Shapeshift was a company and not a DEX front end. You would, if the merchant only took Bitcoin, you could just select whatever coin you wanted to pay with, it auto convert to Bitcoin for them. But pretty soon it became just much more comfortable, and easier than Bitcoin over the years, and every passing year has gotten easier. And so I did some work for Dash from 2017, 2019. Then in 2020, I started a podcast, started doing some independent stuff, started doing some work for Zcash, etc. And then finally, in the beginning of this year, I decided to go full-time back into Dash, because this whole evolution thing that Evan Duffield was talking about in the early days, that really sold me on getting interested in Dash. I'm like, oh man, this is something my grandma could use. This is great. This idea is, at least, that hit a bunch of delays for a bunch of reasons. It's a huge long story, right? I finally started to see, it was like, it's going to come out in 2024. I'm like, I should just jump back in full time, because the world needs to see this. And I think I can make a difference here.
So what's different about Dash today, let's say?
So the different thing is, obviously instant transactions is a huge thing. Instant finality, where you just, in the moment, it really works. It just works. and low fees and scalability. That combination of things doesn't really exist in anything else. Maybe you give a shout out to Nano because they managed to handle a lot of that kind of stuff pretty well. But what Dash does have is also a lot of usability and integrations into ecosystems. So you can actually practically spend it on things. To integrate a lot of major payment processors in crypto. Some go-betweens such as Bitrefill is a fantastic company that sells gift cards and phone top-ups and other things, also has Dash support. So I can, say, walk into a Chipotle, what's your burrito, $22.98 or whatever, put $22.98 and buy a gift card for exactly that amount and scan it right there.
Wow.
So now I can just, but again, not with Bitcoin because that takes too long. With Dash, it's instant, so it works. Another fantastic partner of ours, Spritz Finance, lets you pay all your utility bills, your mortgage, your rent, everything with Dash. And again, not with a lot of competitors. So, and the Dash wallet is, in my opinion, the most, I mean, of course, biased, right? But the most streamlined.
Easy to use.
Yes, that you can actually just easily use to just, as your like personal checking account, to just live entirely off of crypto. So from an objective, obviously I'm biased, but from the objective standpoint of someone who's been trying to do this for a long time, if I wanted to get someone from zero to living all on crypto, there's nothing better I could really recommend than Dash today.
And I think it's very interesting because when I talk to my friends, like, you should get this stuff, get Bitcoin, buy some crypto. The main question is, well, where can I use this? Right?
Yeah.
That's the main question. But you've been doing this for a long time. You've been able to buy your pants, your fruits, your food, your utilities with crypto. Well, with Dash.
Yes, and you can do it with a variety of different cryptos. As far as if you had to stick with only one, it's hard to do it with anything other than Dash right now. For a while, I thought when the Lightning Network type stuff was really heating up, you would be able to also do it just as easily with Lightning services, but that's kind of like died down a little bit now. Now it's hard again. And so, the Dash wallet has like privacy features in there as well. So for people who care about that works out really well. And as of, I've been working this thing since January of 2024, and a lot of the partnerships and stuff we've been working on that haven't been really talked about publicly yet, I think will make it a lot easier. And I've sort of spent like the last almost decade living on crypto, trying to just learning what it takes. Like, what am I missing? What does the end user need? And now I'm kind of in the other side of things, just building the connections between that. And I think it's going to be a lot easier with this big release we have coming up too. It's going to help things out.
So talk to me about this big release, because this is coming up, 10-year anniversary, new big release. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, so the Dash Evolution platform is a entirely new blockchain. It's like a side chain that's focused on decentralized data storage and data contracts. And basically what that means is it's, I guess you could say, sort of similar to the smart contract space, but in a much more targeted read and write decentralized data instantly, like very fast, and call up decentralized data. And so, for example, if you have, like, let's just give the example of a Yelp, you could write all that merchant listing information of, like, this merchant is here, they accept this, their Wi-Fi situation is that, write that all in a decentralized blockchain. And because it's a several layered data storage solution that's indexed, you could just, with a decentralized app, call up that decentralized data like that. And that's not something that really exists super well in the crypto world today. The whole reason for that was to build the usability layer around crypto transactions. And the first two apps that are being launched on that are the DPNS, or the Dash Platform Name Service, which is a naming service similar to, like, let's say ENS on Stop Hold Domains. Some of those ones you might be more familiar with. But then the other one is something called Dash Pay, which is a payment app sort of protocol that allows you to make two-way connections between users. Basically, you can friend people on the blockchain. So if I were to, if in the old system of like addresses, I'd have to like hit you up on Telegram or something and say, hey, thanks for dinner, what's your address? And you have to paste this big long address. I have to copy it, pay to that address. In the username system, instead of that, it's just what's your username, and I just say it and the username resolves to an address. In this system, we would already be friended, make a two-way connection, and the thanks for dinner, well, this is this much at this fiat price, whatever, is encrypted and transmitted between us. So even though the payments are on the blockchain, all the connectivity stuff is made from the two-way connection between us. And then if I lose my phone or whatever, and I restore the wallet from the seed phrase or whatever, it's not just the money that comes back, it's also all my contacts are there too, all our payment history and the data between us. That really makes it like, you know, decentralized Venmo kind of. And that's where we're starting out with, and then we're adding things like tokens, like hopefully stable coins, things like that. Next year, some smart contract support, and then building just a whole decentralized application layer and just kind of going crazy on that stuff. So it's going to be a very exciting rest of this year for sure, and then next year and in the future. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure.
So tell me, because this may be controversial.
Oh, I like that.
Well, you were talking about how you started with Bitcoin, now you're with
Yes.
Dash. What do you think about Bitcoin right now? Where do you think it's headed? Is it positive? Are we going to get to 100K?
Probably. Well, first off, if the money printer keeps going, then the answer is probably yes. As I like to tell people, in 2021, the price got up to 69,000. The equivalent of the purchasing power of that today is 79,000. So because of the money printer, Bitcoin could have no more of the same purchasing power, but still have a higher price. So I do think it would go there. I'm not 100% sure what to think about Bitcoin today. I think it's really moved past peer-to-peer money. It's kind of moved completely past that. That's not what it's for anymore. I don't believe. I think it's largely an institutional settlement asset, and so I think that it's become much more useful for funds and large companies and things like that as like a reserve asset, and it's like a better upgraded version of gold. And for me, from my digital cash perspective, freedom money, we're gonna smash the bank, all that kind of crazy stuff in the early days. It is kind of a massive disappointment from that. But if you think about from gold and from other reserve assets, it's also still an upgrade. So I try to take that point of view where it's like, okay, this is an improvement. It's not what excites me, but it's an improvement. And I do think that there is sort of a half-hearted gold rush to try to build things that settle things you can trust are denominated in Bitcoin. I think in the future, whoever can actually solve that and make that work out will win out big. Maybe it'll be Dash, maybe not. Who knows? But I think that Bitcoin is like went from solving the whole problem to solving like a third or half the problem. And if whoever can, but it's that piece it solved is being solved very well. So whatever the rest of it, whoever managed to complete that picture, that Bitcoin's part of that puzzle, I think will win out big.
So for those listening, what should they be buying? Is it Dash? Is it joining? What should we be doing?
Well, obviously, I never give investment advice.
No.
But also, I honestly don't know. There are people who are much smarter with the market who know much better about what to buy. Maybe it's meme coins. I don't know. But I would recommend people use, and for a couple reasons. First of all, I think there's lots of benefits of using decentralized tech as a whole, and decentralized money is the most important for me, and probably for a lot of people, part of that. So start trying to live on crypto today, even if it's like 10% of your spending, or 50%, or whatever.
I like that goal.
Just try doing something like that. And also, even if you're just an investor, you should still try that, because this space is full of hype. There's full of empty promises, full of everything. And sometimes you're reading like spec sheets, and you don't know what you're getting into until you touch the technology yourself, and you're like, oh wow, this doesn't work like they said at all. And my moment for that was the Lightning Network. When the Lightning Network came around, people were saying, oh my God, it's going to do all this stuff. So I ran a Lightning node, routed some payments, started trying to actually use the Lightning Network as a substitute, and I got an actual deep understanding on how it works and understand it's useful for some things, but definitely the peer-to-peer cash thing, it's not useful for at all. Structurally, it cannot be. And I mean, just yesterday I was on a panel as a Lightning Network expert, and people were like, oh man, you know so much about how this works. This is crazy. I'm like, yeah, because I used it. And figured out how it worked. So even if you're just looking as an investor of like, what am I going to buy that's going to make me rich or whatever, use it first yourself so you have firsthand data on what you're buying. So you don't just buy into other people's marketing copy and promises. You touch the stuff yourself. That's what I would tell everyone.
I love that. Any last words? Where can we find you? Where can we learn more about Dash and all these new updates?
Yeah, so dash.org is the website for Dash. We post a ton of stuff on X at DashPay. My personal X account is at the Desert Links. Desert is in hot place, Links is in kitty cat. You know, fiat is a scam. Live on crypto before it's too late.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a
How
hive.
many know who do not understand that we do not want?
Ladies and gentlemen,
We're back at the Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us today.